Good morning, everyone. This is Jeff with the Cyber Pro podcast, where industry leaders share their insights. It's 5 questions in about 8 minutes, because let's be honest, hackers don't sleep, so neither should we. So let's jump into it. Good morning, Matt. In a few sentences, can you please tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Sure, and thanks for having me, Jeff. I really appreciate the opportunity. I'm Matt Donahue. I'm the CTO for CloudWave. Here at CloudWave, we provide managed cloud services in the healthcare industry, specifically for sort of the provider space, and it ranges from full infrastructure hosting to disaster recovery, managed backup as a service, and we have a suite of managed security offerings as well.
Excellent. Uh, Healthcare is a very interesting space because compliance and HIPAA and many other acronyms are becoming more and more important. And as a CTO, during these times where every industry is seeing a spike in breaches and attempted breaches, what is the best thing about being a CTO during these unprecedented times?
Yeah, so I'd say before the big spike in security, I used to use as a saying that I always felt like instead of going to med school, I was enacting, people's lives and presenting changes. And I think with all the breaches and as you pointed out, all the security compliance requirements at hospitals, I think that just brings it home even more. At CloudWave, we kind of view ourselves not nearly as important as, an operating instrument, but we're definitely hoping to make it so that practices and physicians continue operating their job without having to worry about a computer system or a hacker or somebody interrupting their operation. So it's a core value here at the company, and I personally take it as one of my pillars of making sure that we treat everything not as a computer but as a patient at the end of that screen.
Patient. That's a great way of putting it. I love it. And that leads us into question number three, cybersecurity itself. As we just started talking about, it's not only a top concern these days, but apparently getting bigger and growing even more important. Can you share your thoughts on what that means to you?
Absolutely. I think in healthcare, cybersecurity is a reality, and the risk is definitely present. Unfortunately, we've had, I think, in the last 6 months, almost 10 clients that have had some type of ransomware issue, and it's all over the news. We try to take a scope as to limit the impact of that. We're definitely believers, I think, as the industry has said, that everyone's going to be hacked at some point in time, and there's really nothing we can do to stop that from happening. But how do we prevent that from impacting, as we view it, patient care long term, and minimize the damage that can be done? But we hear from our customers every day that it's top of mind, and I don't go to sleep at night without making sure I go through my checklist of, are we making sure we're watching all the dials and keeping our plans intact?
Yeah, well put. And I would imagine, especially in the last 12, 24 months, that list, it's growing, uh, getting more expansive.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you for that. Question number four. We'd love to hear about your insights on what your thoughts are on the importance of having incident response plan and consistently testing it.
That is really our biggest pressing thing when we're dealing with our end clients, and really when I'm just talking to anyone else in the industry, is knowing that you're going to be impacted. Having a good plan for that is great, but having a plan is only as good as having a piece of paper in your hand. If you don't know how to enact that plan, and making sure it's a thorough plan that goes all the way from initial interaction, and I jokingly talk to folks and say, your security guard at the front desk should know if I see the blue screen pop up and all of a sudden the computer is no longer there, what do I do? He shouldn't be sitting there scratching his head, because seconds could be the difference between a ransomware attack affecting half a population or a ransomware attack shutting down a medical institute for 6 months. So making sure from there all the way to what type of restoration capabilities do you have? One of the things that we always see, especially on the cyber security side of the house, they're very focused on the security response, limiting the attack, trying to figure out what happened, what the entry point was. And people don't always take into account that you can sort of build in a disaster recovery plan at the same time. And just as important is keeping the incident at bay, but also trying to return to operations as fast as possible. And knowing that every security risk is changing almost on a monthly basis. I feel like the bad guys are moving quickly, that you can't have a static plan. You have to be able to be nimble and test that plan. And I typically recommend folks to go through a test at least quarterly, even if they can do it faster. And in our cloud service, we don't test for all of our clients, but every week we are going through an incident response plan. We have about 150 clients, so we can cycle through and do 2 or 3 a week to make sure our team is staying on point, to make sure that if there's an incident and when there's an incident, we can try and get things down. And our stopwatch is we want to be able to restore services in less than 24 hours if possible. So get a client back up and accessing a clean system in the event of a ransomware attack, and our capabilities as fast as possible.
Yeah, clean system. Well, very well put. And on that, I'm going to mix things up a little bit and ask you if there are folks in our community who are interested in learning a little bit more about you, what CloudWave does, your products and services. What's the best way to get a hold of you?
Sure. So the best way to get a hold of me is to reach out to my LinkedIn profile. I check that, and I'm on that fairly regularly and try to respond to all folks. Also on our website, we do have a monthly blog where we share people throughout the company, technicians every month. We share some technical highlights and let people sort of take their thought process and put it out there on paper. And we feel it's a good content driver for folks to learn more about the company.
Excellent. Thank you. And with 2 minutes, our final question. What is your favorite piece of retro technology that makes you smile?
So this is a good one. And actually, I went back and forth a little bit in my mind because there was 2 that immediately came to mind. And even for me, they're retro, but I think the winner is handily the Apollo guidance computer. I think whenever exactly, there you go. You can't smile. You can't do anything but smile when you think of what was accomplished with so little technology, and the power that went into building that and what was accomplished. It's amazing to me.
Yeah. So my follow-up question is, for those of us who want to kind of go down that little rabbit hole, is there a YouTube video or something that we can go offline, grab that title and throw that into the description that people can watch to learn more about it? It's, as you said, fascinating to see.
It is. That we could go down a rabbit hole for days. I actually have one of my colleagues, we attempted to start building our own new version of an Apollo guidance system, but I would highly just recommend for folks that don't know much about it, in YouTube, if you just look up the Apollo guidance computer, you will probably end up spending 3 or 4 hours in your life that hopefully you won't regret doing so.
Well, excellent. Matt, thank you so much for your time this morning. We really appreciate it. For those of you who know, the Cyber Pro podcast posts 4 episodes a week from folks like Matt, who are CTOs, CIOs, and CISOs, giving their opinions and their perspectives on the cybersecurity space that we all live in. My name is Jeff. Thank you for your time. Be well, and we'll see you on the next podcast. Bye-bye.